stuck in some ruts, and covered in guts. Here's your look at the NECA Toys Toony Terrors Evil Dead 2 Bloodied Ash. Bring the fun of Saturday morning cartoons to your horror collection with these adorable little creeps. Pick your favorites or collect them all and make every day Toony Terror time. Before we get down to looking at something groovy, the first thing we're going to want to do is figure out how tall the bloodied Toony Terror Ash Williams stands by taking the tape measure, as we always do here on this channel, and stopping right to the very top of his head. I'd like to as well thank the folks over at NECA Toys that provided the sample of Toony Terror's Bloodied Ash that we can have a look at in this review. Bloodied Ash is available right now in retail stores and online as well. Show us the measurements. There you go. Bloodied Ash from the Toony Terrors line stands 5.8 inches in height. We can switch that over to centimeters, revealing that Bloody Ash is 14.8 centimeters tall. Mind you, on the packaging, he's actually not called Bloodied Ash. I'm just continue to call him that. He's actually just called Ash, but he is a bloody variant. As you can see, he's been doused and saturated in blood. He's a little bit different than the original Ash that we got, which sadly at this present time I'm unable to bring out. I've stored him away somewhere, but he's basically looking the exact same as this one, short of the fact that this one has a whole lot of extra marinara sauce all over his body. With that being said, let's bring in a couple of other Toony Terrors that we can do some comparisons with. Why don't we start first with Michael Myers, for no other reason. Not that the two would ever find the same movie verse together. I certainly could imagine, if anything, him being in the same movie verse as Victor Crowley. And you know what? Another chainsaw-wielding maniac. Sorry, Ash, I shouldn't call you a maniac. There he is next to the Leatherface. And for no other reason, just because we never seem to bring him in, there's the Tim Curry. Bring him in a little bit more. There we go. There's the Tim Curry Pennywise. Another Toony Terror that NECA Toys have released. Similar to the original release, Bloody Ash, or Variant Ash, if you guys don't want me continuing to call him Bloody, Red Soaked Ash, let's just say that, comes included with the very same Boomstick that came with the first release. Having a look at that right now. It'd be strange to segue ourselves not to the Boomstick after I've just finished talking about it. The Boomstick looks to me like it's been molded in brown plastic, and then the end nozzle, the main barrel of the gun, has been painted nicely in black. It's a nice looking Boomstick, no different really from the one that we got before. You know, if we're following the same suit, the fact that his outfit, after all, is covered in blood, it would be nice also that maybe the Boomstick get a little few droplets of the same stuff happening as well, but it doesn't. It still stays pretty clean and pristine. You can fit it into his hand, although it's pretty easy to guess which hand you will want to be putting it into. It's this hand right here, in case anybody didn't know. You can take the Boomstick, fit it very easily into his hand, just put it in on the side and then twist it around. That's more than enough to keep it in place. Now, if you want to have it not facing forward like that, but instead pointing straight up, clever the way that they've designed this. Again, no different from the original Ash. You can actually take his arm, and while it doesn't have a hinge to it, it certainly, most definitely does have a swivel. All you do is just swivel this up. And continuing that, if you keep swiveling completely the full way, it does at least finish off the elbow rather nicely. And then from there, you can twist the hand around if you want, take the same Boomstick that we were just discussing, and that can fit, again, nicely into his hand, just like that. Sorry, what? Can it go in any other place? It can. You read the script. Go ahead and just remove that and locate it on the back of the figure. A little scuffed up, sadly. I'm not sure why it has little scratch marks on the back of it, but he does have a holster to holster the Boomstick. Just slides into place like that. It's actually a very loose fit. Just drops that in place, good to go. At least one good thing going for this figure, although there's actually a lot of things going well for this figure, is that at least it doesn't have the permanently bent arm like this. Because it would be a bit strange. It almost looks like he's asking somebody for a telephone. Knowing, certainly, the exploits he has to go through, both Evil Dead 1, Evil Dead 2, and Army of Darkness, I would imagine he probably should have had a cell phone readily available. Anyways, though, at least it doesn't have the elbow permanently bent like this. So if you do want to just have him straight armed, just swivel the elbow back around. Making sure it's nice and straight. Just bring the arm forward and then just bring the hand around. Pretty close. I mean, it does have a little bit of a jump right there. where the mold is sticking out, sadly. But other than that, it's nice to see that at least they incorporated a twistable function for his arm and gave him some extra posability instead of just giving him a staction arm like that. While we're certainly on the topic of arms, not necessarily on the topic of hands because the other hand is gone, he does have, of course, his trusty chainsaw, which, like the rest of the figure, is covered in blood. I suppose there is the means to remove this. I haven't tried it myself. It looks like it probably could just twist and pop right off. I've actually even considered the idea, if that is the case, of removing the chainsaw completely and just leaving him behind with a severed stump. And then maybe even trying to take the chainsaw. I know I'm basically just saying all these craft projects I plan on doing on the side, but I guess you could technically put the chainsaw in his other hand, at least by the handle, and make it look like he's just cut off his hand. Not that I'm really encouraging anybody to start dissecting their figures and displaying it looking like he's chopping off his hand, but at least it would give him something different than the other Evil Dead Ash that we already received. It's a nice looking chainsaw, though, when all things are said and done. It does have, of course, the teeth, and like I said, it does look like it's been used generously. Generously. Of course, the resulting in all that is the fact he's got all this blood all over his arm, all over his torso. Somebody's going to have to clean up that. For the head sculpt, it's no different, really, than the one we had gotten before. Similar, really, to the Michael Myers. If you had already picked up the Michael Myers, the only real mileage that you get then from the second picking up the figures the second time around is the fact that they're covered in blood. I guess it does work well for Ash. It worked well for Michael, having the tears of blood trickling out from the eye sockets. And like I said, it does work well for this character. I don't know if I would want to do blood on every single Toony Terror. Just simply re-releasing all the figures again, just with a different coat of paint, with much needed blood added on top of it. I guess they could have done a bloody version of Leatherface, for example. Maybe given him a slightly darker shirt, for example, and just had blood all over the place. That could be something that they could potentially do later on, even though, really, when you think about it, Leatherface has been around for a while. A part of the Toony Terrors line, it was released one of the earlier waves. I guess they could, again, always just decide to release it again. But, I mean, the coloring is quite bright on it, and I'm not just talking about the blood that's everywhere. I do like the fact that it is sort of centric in the middle of his torso, and like I said, it's just not every single place. You would imagine that as he's carving up the turkey, the blood would just be splattering up here. And one area that does get missed is his arm. I guess you could say there should be a little bit of blood there as well. But we can't have blood everywhere. I think too much of it takes away from it. You need to separate, sporadically place that blood in only certain places. That's the charm of blood. You don't want to have it just soaked and doused in blood. Spin the figure around so you can certainly see it from the backside. Again, all using the same mold from before. Very narrow waist, very broad torso. It does have good proportions going for it. This was a figure that I really liked before, and it does look a lot nicer. Well, no, I wouldn't say that. It doesn't look nicer having the extra blood, but I think blood does work quite well again for Ash Williams. But I still kind of like the pristine nature of the original Ash. One thing I will say, though, when it comes to this particular figure, actually, just before that, I want to quickly show you guys the lower half of his body. He does have the ripped open leg. I'm trying to remember if there is a little bit of that red down below on the original release, or if that was a different color. Shoes are sculpted decently as well. And you can see if you flip it on the underside, there is a peg hole on the underside of at least one of his feet. So you can attach that to a display stand. Though this figure doesn't actually come with a display stand. Okay, so resuming with what I was going to say, one thing I have noticed on this particular figure that was a problem with the original Ash, I'm not really sure if they've fixed something, but it certainly seems like they have. Because when you're looking at the articulation on the figure's head, for example, the head rotates on a ball joint. I seem to recall, if memory serves me correctly, that original Ash did have problems where his head frequently popped off that ball joint. A problem that was currently plaguing with the Creep. Remember, the Creep had that same issue. I don't know if, again, they've fixed it. If that's the case, it certainly is welcomed because, like I said, you can move the head all the way around, and I'm having no real issues when it comes to the posability on the figure. I can do this until the cows come home. Obviously, you guys will not want to see me just rotating the head for the next 45 minutes. Could you imagine if the rest of this review was me simply just doing this? I'm not going to do that, don't worry. The other arm rotates, or I guess for the rest of the articulation, the one arm rotates all the way around. And yes, technically you can rotate the chainsaw. Again, making me think that I probably could just pop that off and leave a severed stump behind. Thinking a craft project is coming up. The other arm does rotate all the way around. Again, we've already looked at the articulation here on the forearm. So again, you can either go upright or you can have that bringing down as well. You know, it also would have been fun, I think, to include with this particular figure a Necronomicon that you could have had actually in his hand. Not permanently sculpted in place, but certainly at least a Necronomicon that you could either have put in this hand or you could have put it in the original Ash Williams hand. Just a nice little swap, a different accessory to say the least. He doesn't have any articulation here for the torso. I mean, it's just basically molded to the lower half, right? This all part, it's all one piece. But he certainly does have leg articulation, so you can bring those back and forth. And when it comes to his feet, he has no foot articulation either. So it's basically head, arms, right? Arms, hand. Technically, we're gonna give it a pass as a hand. Okay, has that there. Arm swivel, that's another one. Hand, and then of course legs. So he does have articulation where it counts. I think there is a still merit there to be picking up a figure like this, even if you already have the original Ash, without, of course, the blood. I think this one is still a nice welcome addition. Still curious maybe whether I could take this off and just leave it as a stump. If I do that, maybe I'll post it on my Instagram or Twitter so you guys can check that out. But still, it's nice looking figure. And if they have improved the ball joint, which I'm thinking that they have, thank you, NECA, because that was one of the issues that really was plaguing this Ash when we first had a look at this figure. Well, we first had a look at this figure that didn't have as much blood all over the place. FYI, no, I'm not spelling fui. I don't think that's actually a word. FYI stands for your information. For your information here, just want to draw everyone's attention to the back of Ash's torso, because the holster that houses the boomstick can also be twisted. That means if you want to, as an alternative of displaying the boomstick in his hand or having his arm straight, you could almost make it look like he's pulling his boomstick out from his holster. How about that? You know, I don't mind the idea that NECA Toys in this case double-dipped Ash Williams. Not double-dipped him literally, but double-dipped the figure, because I think a figure like this could warrant having blood soaked all over his body. Not all over his body, just in some random places. I don't want the entire body to be covered in blood, but I think it would also work on certain characters as well. Like I wouldn't want it on a Ghostface, for example, but a Jason, sure. Or a Leatherface, most definitely. Having him covered in blood works well. But again, I wouldn't want this to be done with every single figure. Not every single Toony Terror, I think, warrants to have a repaint. They have chosen the figures specifically, and I think the characters that they have chosen, I think, justify having the blood. I mean, I would be also open to the idea of getting an NES Toony Terror's Jason Voorhees, which I've seen some people repaint themselves, providing, of course, we can free things up, the legal issues, of course, that plague the franchise right now. But once that frees up, I hope that they would be open to the idea of releasing a repaint Jason Voorhees Toony Terrors in the NES colors. What other repaints of Toony Terrors would you like to see, making use of the existing characters that we already have right now? Oh, maybe we could get ourselves a stab version of Ghostface with the green mask instead of the white. That would be also a nice idea. But what do you think? I'm asking you, the viewing audience. What other repaints of a Toony Terror would you like to see? Let me know down below in the comment section. Also, big thank you to the folks over at NECA Toys that provide the sample of Toony Terror's Evil Dead 2 Ash version 2, Bloody Ash, whatever you want to call it. I guess that for obvious reasons they couldn't call it Bloody Ash on the front of the packaging. That has to hit, of course, retail store shelves. But, of course, Ash variants. What do you guys think of the figure? Let me know down below in the comments section. And if you're new to this channel and enjoying all the content, be sure to hit the subscribe button down below. Hit this video with a like if you enjoyed watching it. And make sure you turn on that bell notification so that when future videos, such as perhaps more Toony Terrors or more NECA reviews, pop up, you'll get those friendly notifications. And of course, keep in mind that Monday to Friday, 12 p.m. and 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we always have new videos popping up. And occasionally, I may sprinkle a few over the weekend as well. So there's always new content to be watching on this channel. As always, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.